everybody, it's Lesley Dale with the TFP, and joining us is Zack Peterson, our court reporter. We have information on the Woodmore horrific bus crash. Criminal proceedings started today for the bus driver, 24-year-old Johnthony Walker. Let's talk about what happened today.
Sure. So Johnthony Walker went to court today for the first time. He was arrested last week after that horrific bus crash. So he has bond, sitting in jail, and then, as it often goes, you'll make your first appearance in a lower court here called General Sessions Court. Usually, when that happens, the first time they show up, they'll make sure that you've got the attorney you want, or they'll make sure you have a public defender, and then we'll pass the date.
Okay.
So today what happened was everyone walked in, agreed they were not ready for a preliminary hearing, and decided to come back December 15th. So about 2 weeks from now.
Did they give reasoning why they aren't ready for a preliminary?
Sometimes they do. Sometimes it's just usually a spoken agreement between the prosecutor and the defense attorney. In this case, Mr. Walker has hired a defense attorney. Her name's Amanda Dunn.
A private defense attorney.
Mm-hmm. And she gave a statement today after the hearing. She harped upon how tragic the situation is, how upsetting it is for everybody, and how Mr. Walker is devastated too. And to bear in mind that he will continue to be presumed innocent until guilty.
And at this point, we have confirmed 6 children dead from this bus crash last week.
Yeah, there's still a lot of unknowns, of course. We've got that NTSB report out there.
And they talked about that a little bit, right?
Exactly. Ms. Dunn pointed out that there's still a lot that we need
His
to
attorney,
learn from it.
Walker's attorney.
Yep.
Okay. So she said we still...
Right, we're going to wait for that to come back, see if there's more answers in there. Obviously, the NTSB has been looking into this thing, and I think they mentioned in one of our previously reported stories that Tally Road was not on that bus route. So there's a lot that's still going to be coming out, and that could be why they're waiting maybe a few days to get all their bearings together.
Right. So we came out with that last week from the NTSB. They had a press conference and did confirm that the road where the bus crashed was not on the route. They also said there were cameras in the bus, but they were damaged, so they have to review all of that material, obviously, which will play into these proceedings. Initially, when they gave their first press conference, I believe the day after the crash, they said it would take about 7 to 10 days to get through the investigation. Sometimes, that varies, but okay. So basically today in court, the preliminary got pushed.
Exactly. And just to explain to you guys, a preliminary hearing it's a pretty essential right early on in any kind of criminal proceeding. It's your chance to go in with your defense attorney and cross-examine the witnesses. Anything that the state has, any of the evidence that's going to be used against you, you can see what they have, cross-examine them, and you can start to put statements on the record and get people under oath before a trial. So,
and let's talk about the charges.
Sure.
6 counts, vehicular homicide.
Right.
Correct? Okay.
I think right now the system is officially showing 5, but the police have said that a 6th child died, so we can expect another charge to be coming, I believe.
And I'm reading your updated article right now, and you guys can do that on the website. Is that our number 1 story right now, Shaquem?
Number 2.
Number 2?
Number
okay.
2.
Well, you guys can go on there and look at it. I just track what you guys are looking at. But I do want to mention Walker's attorney reminded everyone that he is still an innocent man until found guilty, and sent her prayers to the community at large, saying, quote, obviously this has been a devastating tragedy for the Chattanooga community. There are families in mourning. There are families who are still dealing with loved ones. Again, this is Walker's attorney saying this, and then she went on to say, Mr. Walker's family is also devastated by this tragedy. Mr. Walker is devastated. As he sits in jail right now, Mr. Walker is an innocent man, so he will remain so until proven guilty. She goes on to extend her prayers again to the community. And rewinding back to last week, police are the ones who say Walker was driving fast, lost control of his school bus, and struck a telephone pole and a tree on Tally Road, which the NTSB had said was not on the route. And we all know the rest of the story, and it continues on. You know, some of these kids who are on the bus are still in the hospital, and we have updates on their conditions as well on the website. So.
And the interesting thing here too is obviously the justice system has two pillars. We've got the criminal side, but we also have the civil side,
right.
which is going to get a little more active as we go about this. You know, maybe there are family members who would like Mr. Walker or would like Durham schools to face the full brunt of their responsibility.
And you mentioned that name, Durham
School Services.
Okay, so tell people what that is.
Sure, that's the company that provides the equipment to the county and provides a lot of our bus drivers.
Okay.
I want to say, after reading an old article from 2015, they provided something like bus drivers and equipment for like 200 something routes.
Yeah.
I need to double check that.
Yeah, that's also on the website.
Okay.
So that's another conversation people are getting into about outsourcing, you know, these companies to provide drivers, and then, you know, there's the issue about seatbelts not being in the buses. So those are two separate issues that we're also investigating here at the TFP. But I do want to talk to you about the civil side of things. You wrote an article about that a couple days ago.
Yes, actually this is going to be interesting because this is going to all be related to a little bit to tort reform somehow. And tort reform actually, at least here, started developing because people are really worried about malpractice cases. So over the years we've started setting caps on these cases when people file for damages if they've had malpractice. And now it has started, because of a reform effort in 2011, to be applied to all businesses. So I spoke with some attorneys last week who dabble a lot with civil law, and they were saying that there'll be a cap for anyone seeking personal damages. Bear in mind here, Durham has already said it will provide a lot of help on the medical side of things. That would be considered an economic damage. So for non-economic damages, for personal damages, for loss of life, loss of enjoyment, consortium, you know, when you lose a loved one and you can't live the same or you need support, those all fall under personal damages, and there's a cap for that. So the most a family can get from a personal damage in a lawsuit now will be $750,000.
$750,000. Wow. What was it before?
I don't know before. I don't think there actually
there
just
wasn't
was
a cap.
Exactly.
Okay.
And again, a lot of this stemmed from doctors who were concerned about rates going up because of either runaway juries or they were returning high reward amounts. It's kind of an interesting argument because obviously you'll get a lot of attorneys on the other end who say that there are not runaway juries and that this is almost an attempt to leapfrog the very clear judicial system that's set up.
But as it stands,
there's a cap.
That's the cap. Okay. Now, people are really obviously passionate about this horrible incident, and we have so many comments on the website today about the judicial system. Joanne Campbell saying, no, N-O in caps, judicial system should question whether or not this case should, she says, go to the grand jury. Children died. Previous complaints were made about this driver, and a previous traffic violation is documented. The question should be, when will the case be heard in front of the grand jury? Additionally, all those who allowed this man to drive with known problems, taking on the responsibility of many children under his watch, should also be held accountable. A private attorney, typically very pricey unless it's an ambulance chaser, who has grabbed the case for exposure, and then dollar signs, and a lot of people kind of, you know, supported this reader of ours, you know, post about this, and just keep going on and on and on. People obviously want to see justice for these kids and their families. I think everybody agrees on that, but as far as the way the judicial system works, I mean, like we're talking about, that's the system.
Yeah,
so.
it's unfortunately a little slow, but that's not a bad thing. And I think what's interesting to note here is when he does have that hearing, there are some...
When is the hearing?
Well, it will be December 15th.
Okay.
Presumably, I think they would like to get it out of the way before Christmas. Could happen then. It could be delayed again. We'll see. But there are certain thresholds you have to meet, right? So for there to be probable cause for a case to go into the grand jury, you just have to determine if there's probable cause that the person did it and that it happened. So I think we can all agree that this happened. I think there's a lot of evidence right now to support that Mr. Walker was there on the bus. Driving, exactly. So that seems like a pretty easy threshold for probable cause. It wouldn't shock me at all if it went to the grand jury. From there, of course, just to kind of explain how these proceedings go, the grand jury reviews it. Oftentimes they'll have, they use a blanket term, a prosecutor, but it could be a prosecutor who walks in, it could be a law enforcement officer who walks in. They explain the facts of the case to a grand jury here in Hamilton County, and then the grand jury elects to return what's called a true bill, or an indictment. And that's just a formal documentation of a very serious crime, in which case it would move on to criminal court, and the proceedings will go from there. So, got a little bit of waiting ahead, but the wheels are spinning.
Okay, I'm trying to see if we have some live comments going on right now. Right now, not so many questions, but just people are so saddened by this, and they feel like the judicial system, you know, the lengthy process could mean bad news or more waiting time for families. And like I've covered too, I mean, cases, and obviously we all hope this one can go on for a long time, especially when you get into the civil process.
Right.
But it sounds like this one with the NTSB getting this investigation done, it sounds like that information is needed to move forward with the criminal proceedings, and December 15th is when this hearing has been set for now. So we're going to continue to keep you updated. Is there anything else you'd want to explain to people or tell people about where you see this process going? We've pretty much gone over it all.
I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the only thing I think would be extremely interesting, but this is very far down the road, if this did somehow go to trial, jury selection, right?
Right.
There's a current case in Hamilton County Criminal Court involving a man named Cortez Sims. In this case, it was highly publicized. He brought this up in court once. I mean, a friend in, I think, Texas called him and told him they saw him on TV leaving the courtroom one day.
Okay.
So it does raise an interesting question. How do you bring in a partial jury when news is becoming extremely fast-moving and globalized almost? And I mean, I wonder if the question will be similar here, just because Mr. Walker's case, I've seen it on small bars on CNN at the bottom of the page. You know, it's exploded and it's gone everywhere. So I don't know what happens moving forward.
Yeah, the only person I had talked to who didn't hear about this had been out of the country. You know, so that's a good point to bring up.
Yeah, it'll be intriguing to see what happens here moving forward.
Okay, all right. Anything else you're working on this week?
Nothing I can tell you.
Nothing you can tell me. Okay, well, we're going to continue on, and we'll have more for you at 2 o'clock and at 11 today. So thanks for explaining everything. I hope we provided some answers for you, and we're going to stay on top of this for everybody.
Excellent.
See you guys.
Thanks.